Everybody knows there's no such thing as wild monkeys in Canada and the United States, except for maybe a small population of macaques living in Florida that were set loose. But for centuries, people have seen monkey-like creatures in Canada and the United States, in places you wouldn't expect. In a previous video, I covered stories of what are called devil monkeys, which I think encompass 3 different types of North American monkey sightings. The weirdest one of these, in my opinion, is from the Copper River in Alaska, where the Ottawa Indians have stories about what they called the tailed ones, which are basically described as carnivorous monkeys, man-eating monkeys, that used to prey on the natives. And the legend says they were tracked down and smoked out of their caves and killed. Despite that legend, sightings of monkeys in Alaska have persisted until this very day. Then there's stories from the Appalachian Mountains or the Appalachian Mountains in the USA and Canada, where people have spotted this weird-looking monkey with long ears, like tall ears, that are very vicious. They'll attack people and they'll run across the road and things like that, and these have been called devil monkeys. And the third category I talked about in my video includes random sightings of monkeys just across the continent, in places that you wouldn't expect. For example, there's one story from the Boundary Country. I think the town was called Bridesville in southern British Columbia. A woman saw something that looked like a baboon. So these are different from Sasquatch sightings. They're not sightings of apes, they're sightings of a monkey with a tail. And in this video, we're going to check out viewer encounters with devil monkeys in Canada, USA, and around the world. So let's jump right in. First comments from Rocky Perez, 2828, 2 years ago. In 1935, a rich Texan was visiting Japan and ran into a bunch of ice monkeys on Mai Fugi. And since he was going to open up a nature preserve in South Texas, he brought home some 20 to 40 monkeys. In 1947, there was a tornado that blew over and destroyed the building housing the monkeys. As late as the 1990s, some cowboys on the very large King Ranch say they have ran into a troop of ice monkeys who have adapted to the hot and very humid regions of South Texas. Interesting. This is a theory that purportedly accounts for a lot of different cryptid sightings, like out-of-place alligators, out-of-place kangaroos, even the mysterious black panthers of Ontario and New England. The explanation is that somebody who had exotic animals let them go, or some disaster happened and they were set loose. And these wild animals took to the woods and somehow survived in environments that were not native to them, that you wouldn't think they were equipped to survive in. So this theory is that Japanese snow monkeys set loose might account for at least some of the devil monkey sightings in the USA, in Texas. Next comments, Mike Califf, 5553, 2 years ago. I saw a 5-foot-tall real devil monkey at night with 15 million candle-watt flashlight at Peru Lake, California. It had a very long tail, and I surprised the heck out of it. So, story from California. Joe in Alaska, 2 years ago. I actually live near the Copper River in Cordova, Alaska. I've heard strange demonic screaming and laughing before. I was camped out about 4 miles from the Copper River. I left around midnight. 40 to 50 of the things just kept screaming, laughing, and got within 100 feet or so. Not cool. Wow, what a crazy story. So this is like a sighting of the real tailed ones. Tseteni, I think, was the native name for them, on the Copper River. Very creepy. Next one's Captain Sensible, 2 years ago. Not a Canadian story, but one that might have a Canadian connection. In 1954, my mother, 10 years before my birth, was the last person known to have seen the Waitereek, the elusive otter-like creatures reported as inhabiting the waterways in Southland, New Zealand, at the southernmost part of the South Island. She saw it while fishing under the Clifton Bridge, on the Waiau River, about 10 kilometers north of the small logging town of Tuatha Pere. It swam from the northern riverbank, across to the Tuatha Pere side of the river. She said it was not a dog, cat, rat, or any other animal she had ever seen before. It was as big as a large cat, its fur was sleek, and it swam on its back with its paws resting on its belly. The problem is that New Zealand is not supposed to have otters. We're only supposed to have 3 native land mammals, stranded in New Zealand when it split from Australia many, many millions of years ago, a native bat, and 2 types of seals. All other mammals were brought to New Zealand by humans. So where did this animal, seen by early European explorers in the mid-19th century, and described to them by the native Maori, come from? Gavin Mackenzie, in his book 1420, The Year China Discovered the World, suggested the otters came from a Chinese exploration fleet that either carried otters from Asia or picked them up from the northwestern American coast. Personally, I think it more likely that otters escaped or released from American or British sealing or whaling ships that came to New Zealand in the 1790s. Less than 80 kilometers from Clifton, at the mouth of the Appalachian River, further east along the southland coast, is the former whaling station of Riverton, founded in 1830, the first European settlement in the South Island, but visited since the 1790s. Sealers are dropped off around the nearby fjordland and southern coast to hunt seals, especially fur seals, for their hides. In some cases, sealers are stranded in their camps for years at a time, killing and skinning thousands of seals until rescued by returning or other sealing or whaling ships. In fact, in the fjords of Fjordland, the southwestern part of the South Island, it is still possible to find mossy stockpiles of seal skins that were stashed in coastal caves 220 years ago. Okay, I've never heard of this before. The mystery otters of New Zealand. Very interesting. Next one's Plot Hole Detective 4166 2 years ago. I've seen a snow monkey while hunting in West Texas. Called the game warden and they were super nice and sent folks out to look for it. Never found the monkey, but they told me about the sanctuary at Dilley, which is about 50 miles down the road from where I was. Apparently it's fine if you shoot them, but you're supposed to call the warden afterwards if you ever see one. Warden's words were something like, "Those little bastards ain't supposed to be here. We want you to kill them on sight. They're like hogs with thumbs and herpes." Not sure how correct he was about the herpes thing, but apparently they're pretty good at pissing off farmers and wrecking stuff. Okay, so another story about snow monkeys in Texas. Next comment's Justin Pierce 7656 3 years ago. Came across this video after researching descriptions of the creature my girlfriend encountered July 18, 2022 at night. She was driving through Massaponax Church Road in Virginia. She saw this black creature that moved and swung like a monkey walk across the road. She said it was the size of her. If she was on all fours, she's 5'6". It had muscular back legs and long arms, and swung up a tree. It was so big the tree shook as the creature climbed with its long arms. Its head wasn't like a dog or canine's, but more like a monkey's. She said it was the scariest thing she's seen in her life. I started looking up descriptions and encounters of this creature, and came across the devil monkey, and seen all the reports of it being seen around America and in Virginia. I told her the description of the devil monkey creature, and she said it was identical to what she saw that night. Terrifying, but today we encountered one. Wow, so a classic devil monkey sighting in Virginia, which I believe a lot of encounters come from. Next comment's WTF you mean dude 3 years ago. Yeah, they say we had them out here in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Heard stories. They steal our stuff out of yards and sheds, make crazy loud noises, and never come down from the trees during the day. They'll piss on you and throw branches if you get underneath one. And don't run as soon as you see them. If you stay, they bug and flip out, and I've heard stories of them attacking people. Thought it was a joke or BS, but then more and more stories from random old-timer hunters. This is the first wilderness and place man stepped foot on and settled in the world when they founded the Americas. Indians have many odd stories here too. Northeast Adirondacks. If you enjoy these unpolished videos of mine, you might be interested in my new channel, the Gary Mangiacopra Archive. On that channel, I go through the files of the late great Gary Mangiacopra, one of the most prolific Fortean archivists in the world, who spent his life collecting material on unexplained phenomena. Don't let the thumbnails turn you off. There's no AI in these videos. It's just me going through the archives, reading the most interesting stories. If you'd like to check it out, please click the link in the description. Next comment's Penelope Wenman 4388 3 years ago. Yes, these monkeys were seen on the Cypress Mountain region in West Vancouver, British Columbia. A friend says that one was spotted near the garbage cans at the end of a driveway, at home, and in the last street of the new suburban development area. This was late spring 1972. The monkey was very lanky, with short black shiny hair, a round moon face, and would have stood about 4 feet tall. The monkey was startled and dashed quickly to the back of the driveway, where a large cord of wood was stacked. The monkey quickly vaulted over the wood, and moved quickly into the forest behind the rear of the house. The monkey appeared very humanoid in facial features, but with typical lanky long arms and legs. Also in a new neighborhood nearby, a juvenile Sasquatch was seen eyeing the new street up and down. It was standing at the top of a short walkway that led from the street into the forest at the back of the newly built houses. The Sasquatch appeared to be not bothered at all, but eventually turned around and re-entered the forest. The sighting was in about the same time frame as the other type of humanoid monkey creature. Okay, so a story from Cypress Mountain. Next comment, Son of Tyr 3 years ago. I'm from Southern Virginia. Grew up and lived there most of my life. When I was 2 years old, I was in my car seat in my mother's vehicle, while she stood nearby in my grandma's driveway talking to her. She says that all of a sudden, the car rolled backwards into a ditch. She immediately assumed I had released the parking brake, but when she asked me what had happened, I told her a monkey had crawled into the car and released the brake. Gives me chills now after hearing these stories. That's weird. So another story from Virginia. This next comment is from Andrew Eden, 9405, 3 years ago. This is a very long-time commenter, and I recall he had a very intense interest in the devil monkey. In fact, I think it was because of his comments that I ended up looking into the stories. Let's see what he says here. So it's a somewhat unique scenario. Family friends actually saw it in the yard of my childhood house. I will admit at the outset that I did not see the creature myself. Due to the time period, neither the internet nor cell/smartphones were around. The witnesses are people who are so ethical, moral, and religious that they're actually extremely boring people. They're simply not at all the type of people to make things up. They frowned upon such things. It was a mother and daughter who had been members of the church congregation where my dad had been associate pastor. After my dad died unexpectedly at quite a young age, they became even closer family friends. We traveled around to different parts of Indiana, camping, crick stomping, and just generally finding various little weekend adventures. Well, we had gotten back home from one such little excursion. My mom and daughter had already left for home after helping us unpack stuff, put it away, visit a little, etc. I remember that I was in the bathroom when my mom started excitedly telling me from outside the bathroom door about the phone call she had just gotten from the other mom. They had just gotten back to their own home out in the country on the other side of our small town. Anyway, they wanted to let us know that, as they were backing out of our driveway, they had seen a terrifying, demonic-looking monkey/ape-like creature creeping around our juniper bush at the foot of the driveway. Again, these are very down-to-earth, pragmatic people who would never even lie, let alone make up something so fantastical if they didn't at least think they had seen it. What none of us knew at the time was that this little town actually had already had its own little flap of Sasquatch encounters about 15 to 20 years prior to this. I wouldn't learn this until much later with the advent of the internet and the various Bigfoot research sites. Emerson, my mother, is now dead, and I'm not even sure about the whereabouts of the said mother and daughter in the story, but I'll try to look them up. And if I'm able to obtain more details, I will let you know. I'll send them by email. However, since so many requested to hear the story in the comments, I figured I'd at least share the basics here. Wow, that is interesting, and, as he says, the nature of these people and their morals is what really adds weight to this story. And it happened in Indiana, which, if memory serves, is another hotspot for some of these devil monkey sightings. Next comment, Sarcophagus 74, 3 years ago. I saw the demon monkey here in the mountains of Pennsylvania with my cousin. It was about 5 feet tall and had brownish-red hair about 5 inches long over its entire body. Saw it for a few seconds and it fled quickly. If I would have been alone, I would have thought I imagined it. So, story from Pennsylvania, which accords with a lot of others. Next one's Jason Rush, 6701, 1 year ago. I've actually seen what I think is a devil monkey on my property here in Blue Ridge, Georgia. My dad went around the corner to scare up the deer, and down the ridge come this thing. It looked like a giant raccoon-like thing, as big as a man, even though I was holding my gun, my black powder .50 caliber. I was so surprised at what I was looking at, I couldn't even think to shoot. It had a big black bushy tail, and a long muzzle about 12 inches long. The long muzzle, the long snout thing, is a common theme with some of these devil monkey stories. I think this might be the first story I've heard that compares it to a giant raccoon. Most of the stories compare it to like a baboon. But the size of this thing accords with what another commenter from Georgia earlier said, saying that his girlfriend had seen something the size of her. I had been under the impression that the devil monkeys of the Appalachians were supposed to be smaller, but I could be wrong about that. Next comment's Eric from the North, 1 year ago. Okay, this is crazy, seriously, especially with the dark monkey man. Me and a friend drove from Fort McMurray back to Edmonton, and just as we were getting in the wooded no-service area, this thing jumped right in front of us, and I slammed the brake. Thank God no one was behind. We both saw it. Now that I'm watching this, I'm like shocked. Okay, so Fort McMurray is like in eastern Alberta, big oil town, and Edmonton I think is about 4 hours to the southwest. So this would have taken place kind of at the edge of Alberta's boreal forest. Next comment's Joe 3 Pops 9 months ago. There are tales of bands of deadly, long-tailed monkeys or baboons or whatever in South and Central Texas, up to early post-World War I. Supposedly, one rural settler farming ranch community sent telegraphs to a few neighboring towns, requesting assistance, whom immediately called them liars. Now convinced it was up to themselves, they banded together and, well armed, proceeded to rid themselves of these dangerous pests. Apparently, the nearly new 30-30 cartridge in any repeating rifle was the bee's knees for this deadly task. They called them devil monkeys. So another story from South Texas. It says South and Central Texas, which brings to mind the earlier stories about the snow monkeys from Japan. Next comment, Sprightly Sprite 1 year ago. After a flood in South Florida about 2 years ago, my dog and I saw a feral primate in the Park and Go shuttle area near Fort Lauderdale Airport. I think the location is Emmer 75th. I first thought it was a cougar, but as we drove closer, observed it reaching under a shuttle bus. We made eye contact and its face had black ridges under the eyes, down the nasal/cheek area. My dog remained silent, when other times she would bark at cows, horses, dogs, etc. That evening, I saw a depiction of one on a wall mural at Lauder Ale Brewery, wearing sunglasses and smoking something. Apparently people see them on the airport tarmac, sunning themselves and monkeying around. Interesting, and I think South Florida is supposed to have macaque populations now, so I wonder if that's what he saw. They were introduced. I'm not sure on purpose or if they just got loose and live there now. But there are supposed to be monkeys now in Florida. And I think the last comment here was J.T. Zoltan 5 months ago. A long-time, very kind commenter. He says, this happened on a farm just north of Bradford, Ontario in the mid-90s. Many years later, in 2020 or so, when my daughter was 3 years old, she recalls seeing a strange creature with a trunk like an elephant come out of the woods and up towards the back patio at night where her room was. She remembers this, and brought it up unprompted at 6 years old. We remember her saying something about it when she was 3 years old. In both our cases, it could be explained by something like hallucinations. Okay, so not a devil monkey story, I put this in the wrong category. A strange creature with a trunk like an elephant, in Bradford, Ontario. Well, it brings to mind some of the old mammoth stories. Interesting. Okay, so those are the devil monkey stories so far. But I have a feeling that there's a lot more stories like this out there. So if you've had your own devil monkey encounter, please feel free to leave it in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.